Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon,
We're back.
everyone. Good to see you. Today, we want to talk our lunchtime tech talk.
Yep.
And we'd like you to join in. If you can, be sure to chat with us by leaving comments. We're viewing real time if you're watching on Facebook as well as YouTube. If you want to hear it in stereo, although we're not playing anything in stereo because it's just our voice. And I haven't panned James to the left and me to the right. We're both in the middle. So, and that could have more implication than just audio, I guess. But anyway, let's hang and let's talk. Today or over the weekend, I was giving some serious consideration into how to communicate, and because we consult a lot of churches, we are based out of a university concept, and so a higher ed concept here at SAGU, and a lot of what we do is instructional, but we also do 1,300 events a year, so we have our hands full in actual production as well. So we have it on both sides, but we do think about our philosophies and just approaches that may impact how you work from day to day in your world on the front lines. And today, if you don't want to talk, we'll talk anything. There's no specific formula for how lunchtime tech talk actually works. We'll talk about anything. So if you bring it up, we'll talk about it. But while you're not,
we do get the ball rolling.
Yeah, we'll get the ball rolling. So today, I'd like to talk about the decision-making process of buying your equipment. What are some fundamental things that you think about in purchasing whatever it is, whether, oh man, this is a mess. We didn't, man.
Oh no, you can't even see it. You can't even
good.
see it.
All right. So whether it's buying a microphone,
We've got about 8 of these out here.
maybe we'll try some microphones today. You know, a kick microphone like this, what is what process do you use, or how do you think about which microphone you should buy? And so those kind of ideas, I think, are going to be maybe our theme if we don't get sidetracked and talk about something else. So it at least gets us started. Let me do one thing. Oh, I can't do that. Can't share it. I was going to share it to Church Tech Gurus.
Oh.
See if you can do that.
Yeah,
But what is your process? What's the first thing that you think about? You've recognized the need within your media land, in your world. You've recognized the need of something that you really have to have, and let's just say it's presentation software.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big need in the house of worship.
Of course.
You know, what are the questions you ask, and how do you determine what software you end up going with?
Yeah.
And do you have a set process of how to get down to that final decision before you procure it?
Sure. I met someone younger recently. He's an independent film. I mean, he's got an A7S II from Sony. It's high-end and it's expensive gear.
Okay.
It's not cheap.
Yep.
But he was telling me he's looking on Instagram. That's kind of where he started finding gear. And for me, I mean, I know I'm fairly young, but I don't like starting from Instagram. I like going to websites personally. I like to go there. I like to look through the tech specs. He was like, oh, let me show you this. Instagram, he showed this company and the photos on there of the product. And it was a completely different way of thinking about even starting. So even just how do you start looking for gear? I mean, it might even start, I'd be curious if you're using Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, if that's how you're starting your process or looking at reviews, I would be interested in
That's
that.
interesting.
I mean, word of mouth's always going to be the king, especially here. If someone recommends it that I trust, then good chance I go with it. But still, the first time you hear about a gear, like when was the first time you heard about the X32? Was it on a Facebook group, or was it talking to a Behringer rep or a rep from a company that's selling it?
Yeah,
I
that's
would be
interesting.
interested even just the first way you get to hear about some of this gear.
Okay,
so
so
drop that in the comments. I'd like to know.
Yeah, you're talking about it being or developing the knowledge of what brands there are.
Yeah.
So, and I would like to say, it is your philosophy or your research. Does it start with even more primary questions? Like you're jumping in.
When do you
I know,
first find out
like
about it?
X32, if it's a mixer or if it's the presentation software. But do you have a process set up that will go more like, I'm going to write down on a piece of paper or type in my notes in my computer, what are my needs? And then start to research based on my need base.
Yeah.
Or are you going more to a forum and you just go, hey, what does everybody use for presentation? And then you get your brand list, because everybody's going to offer. I mean,
Go buy this, go buy this. Go
Yeah,
buy this.
yeah,
Here's the
right.
B&H
You'll see,
photo
oh
link.
yeah. Hey, I just made a software that you can use and things like that. And that's one way to attack it. But I'm
you're
talking
saying
a
what's
little
the
bit.
philosophy?
Have you
Why?
developed a process that leads you to the best conclusion? Like, how do you get to the best conclusion for you? And I think a lot of guys, we just see it. That's why I say I think a lot of guys do it. Is that they go to the brands, to the forums, and the forums recommend brands, and then you begin to say, okay, why is that brand better than that brand? Instead of actually developing a fundamental needs list that you want to cover, and then go, oh, does your brand do this? And I think I operate a little more now that I'm older. I've been through a few things. I just begin to go ahead and map out what is it exactly that I need. And then you leave a small column over there of the little things that you don't know yet what you need. And you hope to discover those things in the process. But if you start from a very fundamental idea of knowing what you do need, that will now put you on a good, solid, I think, paved path instead of a dirt road, maybe.
Know what you need.
Know what you need would be my, like, if I were typing in there.
that'd be number
I'm telling
one.
you guys.
Know what you need.
That
That
is
would be your-
at least my thing.
That's a good
What
starting
is
point.
your starting point?
I would start there, and then I would probably start by putting out there what have you guys used. Usually that helps me get started to find out
Yep.
what is the solution. So sometimes
Find a trusted resource and then just
Yeah.
ping the trusted resource.
it helps, because sometimes if I just try to think of it all myself, I might end up here and they'll go, oh no, this product's available that I hadn't even heard of. That might help solve my problem. So
Yep.
a good case of that was someone was talking about splitting. They were telling they've got a Blu-ray and a DVD player. And they have all this stuff, and they were like, I want to have it in my headphones and my TV. What's the best solution?
Yeah.
And I started thinking through. Okay, you could do this, and then someone commented, well, just get this product. It was perfect. It was like a four channel headphone mixer and 1/4 inches, and it ended up being perfect for that particular scenario. But I wouldn't have even thought a headphone.
Right.
And I was thinking, oh man, you need an AV receiver. You're going to need.
Yeah.
I went too far. So that's why I like to at least start with the forums and just see what do I need, and then hey, this is what I need. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
And that. And of course, like you said, you can get 100 suggestions pretty quickly. Doesn't take much. But,
Yep.
But then I'll start looking at some of the tech stuff. Ryan Ryder says, can't do anything if you don't know what you need. True, but some people do
Well,
start.
when I say what you need is, for instance, not just pinging out. Oh, I know I need a microphone.
Right.
A microphone. If I go, oh, I need a microphone. What do I need that microphone to do? A lot of people know they need a microphone to get a voice into their PA
But a
system.
vocal mic versus a drum mic.
Yeah,
Not
but
the same.
what microphone? What type? And so a lot of guys will go, what microphone do I need for my background singers on a forum?
Okay.
And then you're going to get, because we've seen it happen, you're going to get 100 different answers because everybody has their favorite microphone. even me.
Yeah.
And what you have to be aware of is the scenario part of that. So you need to tweak down your needs in that. What do I need this microphone to do? Do I need it for a singer, or do I need it for just a speaker, like a talking head of some sort? That could really maybe change.
Male versus female singer, maybe? Or vocalist?
Yeah, you could even write down those kind of, like, get as specific as you possibly can.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's the way it should go.
Even
because
if you say both in that case.
Yeah.
Even if you say it's got to be for these.
And you can always tell the
people.
guys that have either answered the question or been around a long time, because they go, not enough information, give us more information.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
You know, to answer a question like that is so scenario driven. Well, everything we do in the gear that we pick, from even computers, software, to hardware, in all types of scenarios those scenarios are different, and they require a very linear way to think about it. And one thing that changed my mind about 10 years ago, I was in a class setting, pick how I describe, how I teach, how I move within my decision-making process, right? So he had us divide up into groups, and we all were to talk and list out, how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And you have a jar of peanut butter, a jar of jelly, a loaf of bread, and a knife. Okay. Only those elements. How I want you to write down in steps, how do you get to the end, from starting to end of making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Right.
And
some people probably went, just put the peanut butter on.
Yeah,
put the
some
jelly
people
on,
had it in like 8 steps. And they're like, yeah, you know, 8
were the
steps,
first
we
to
did
get
it. And then he showed us his list, and his list was over 480 steps. 480 steps that if you want to get to a great peanut butter or a great product. Now, obviously, that's probably a little overkill. That's micromanaging to the nth degree, but it's very, very important to think about the details, and that's what I'm trying to convey, is the more you understand about your need, and obviously you know you have a need, what about that need will help you make the best decision, because, you know, there is $200 difference between these two microphones.
Which one's
and both of these microphones are extremely good microphones. Even the cheaper one compared to the more expensive one, which is this one. And they fit different needs, which cause maybe prices to go up. Yeah. But they're both very good, and they both would work in pretty much any scenario with anything you throw at it. But is it the absolute best? You know, and if you're in the pursuit of excellence, and you're aiming for being the most efficient, I'm big on efficiency, and especially when you're in a limited budget situation, which most people are, except for Ryan Ryder.
Yeah,
just kidding, Ryan. Then you really need to think about all of the little pieces of the puzzle.
I think we approach it when we go buy a car or a house. We instantly go, well, imagine if you put on one of these groups, I need a car.
Yeah.
Well, you can get up a lot of cars, but maybe you don't need a car. Maybe you need a truck. Maybe you need to rethink your needs in the house. I mean, bazillion types of houses, sizes, floors. I mean, what do you need? It's not that there's a bad house and a good house. You just need that house that's right for you. So when you're looking for gear, just think about what's right for you, and then go from there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take that actually one step further.
Go for it.
Ryan said, "Wait, what?" The thing is, and this is maybe an inherited issue in House of Worship, because a lot of our guys that see us on this platform, Lunch Tech Talk, most of you guys are House of Worship guys, and we get your scenario and your issues and problems really well, because we kind of live it out as well. We have tight budgets, and we have to maneuver around, find, I hate to say it, hacks, but solid ways to work around.
Creative workarounds.
That's right. And I think most of you guys do that on a daily or at least weekly basis. You're finding something that you want to do, and you got to figure out how to execute it, how to get it done. You have to create a workaround instead of spending $1,000 on an Alpha Key module from Renewed Vision. You got to figure out. So we wrote a program for it, or whatever. You figure out a way to get it done. Well, what I'm talking about, an inherited issue with House of Worship in that budget constraining, is that I think we get really primarily fixated on the need. I need a microphone, let me go get a microphone. What does everybody use? And then we get to a resolution very quickly. Instead, I want to challenge you guys, if you're really in the pursuit of excellence and you want to be as efficient and a great steward of money, and you want the best product, it's got to go deep. You got to go deeper. And sometimes you just don't know how. Like, you don't know what you don't know, right?
That's
all right. So
sounds simple.
So I want to say, after a lot of years of doing this, it would be good of me to at least share my experience. And it's my experience. So you guys may have some different experiences, but those that don't, maybe you can learn from an experience. But here's what I say. With the information and technology age that we live in, information is so easily gathered and available. But you got to know, like we said, you don't know what you don't know, right? But you got to go in and I'm going to use, since we have a microphone on the table, I'm going to use this as an example. Apply this to anything that you want to purchase. You've got to learn what this guy is, so that you can understand some of the technical insides. And the more you understand about what this is, the better decision you're going to actually make.
And ultimately, that's what we want. We want to make it better.
We say this is a microphone, right? So it's classified as a microphone. Well, there are a lot of types of microphones. If you don't know all the types of microphones there are, then start there. Say, what types of microphones to Google. Go talk to Google and say, what types of microphones are there? And then you'll get a list, or ask a trusted friend or someone, so that this is a condenser microphone. There's a dynamic type of microphone and a condenser. Those are two of the main technologies that are out there. There are a couple more, but in normalcy, the dynamic and the condenser microphones are there. Well, how do condenser microphones work versus how do dynamic microphones? And there's technology. So remember, and I always tell my guys, always step back, keep it simple, and understand. Start with this process. Everything that goes in, it's got to come out. So when you talk into this microphone, it's got to come out. Well, it's not just a pass-through object. There are a lot of things inside of here that make this microphone very unique and different from this microphone, although they're made by the same, it just happens to be these two are made by the same manufacturer.
But this part right here isn't the same.
And there's things in here that you just will not see because they're covered up and protected, not because it's a secret, but more probably because of protection, that you need to know more about. And that is circuitry, that is, and I know a lot of guys, they don't have time. They're volunteers and pastors. If you're in a small church situation and you're just the youth guy that wears all the other hats, or the worship guy that wears the tech hats, and you're like, man, I just don't have time to get in. And that's why you do need trusted resource, and guys like Stefan Svard and there's a plethora of guys out there. We just happen to be in a relationship with a few of them that you can say, okay, that's a trusted guy, he's going to give me information. But still, you're doing research, and you got to get to a place. But the more you know about it, the more you can actually discern if that is a trusted resource. So I'll get off on a tangent here. Yeah, one of the biggest things we see is my installation or my integrator that we had a big project with to install our PA system or our mixer or whatever. No, they really sold us a load of junk, and we didn't know. Well, the reason you didn't know is because you didn't know how to discern whether they were giving you the best case scenario. And the only way you're going to get there is by doing, and that's one reason we want to do shows like this, is we want to help you get there. And we understand you got a lot of other things to do, but most of you are tech guys anyway. So I challenge you, be a trusted, set up, grow your influence, set yourself up to be a trusted resource, and dig in and understand what it is in your world that makes things better. We, in this house of worship world, we all we're going to benefit from each other and our experiences and our knowledge. And that leads to understanding. Understanding leads to wisdom. And that wisdom will ultimately put you and set you up for best case scenario, or a lot of times we call it success, a very successful venture. So anyway, that's my soapbox on how to make a decision. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes you got to read things 2 or 3 times because you don't understand the words they're using, and you got to take the time, look up the words so that you understand it.
Sometimes
but
you
it's
gotta read
important.
The manual. Sometimes you guys got to read the manual, as hundreds of pages it might be. And
but it is incredibly important to set yourself up for a win, and you do that through good research, good question asking, but have a philosophy that guides your question asking. So you recognize you have a need, and then you really get inside of that need and say, okay, exactly what do I need? I don't need just a microphone. I need a microphone that sounds good with a female background singer. And then you have to draw the scenario. Well, in a lot of church cases, you have a wedge, and I'm just walking through some steps of prompting maybe some things that you can think about. But background singers, a lot of times they don't get the luxury of in-ear monitors, and they have to go through a wedge. Well, you need something that has very good ambient noise rejection, or so that you can turn up the speaker, the mic can be in the speaker line or the projection path and not feedback. So those are certain types of microphones, like hypercardioid or cardioid. Those words, you might not understand them, but the more you understand about them, so research, find out, they will help you understand why you need to buy that for that solution or that scenario. I hope that made sense. But also, like if you're looking for cameras. Cameras. You started talking about a camera.
Yeah, great thing with cameras is, what do you do if you have 2 cameras with similar specs but they're different companies? Like, how do you choose a camera that says it does 1080p 30 and another one that says they do 4K? Well, the 4K may not necessarily be the better camera. I think Stefan did an article recently about that. Just because it's 4K doesn't mean it's a better camera. But doing your research so you know why. Why is 4K not always better than a 1080? And
oh man, yeah,
that's a common one, I think. Is, oh, it's 4K, you got to future-proof, but what are you using it for? Well, we're just streaming. Yeah. Well, I mean, it'll be how long until 4K streaming is the norm for? Well,
who cares? We that have been around, we know. We go, who cares if it's in 4K? Because nobody's going to be able to see the quality difference. Right. And I don't know that we want to talk about that yet, but when we picking a camera, it's not just, you do see the advertised stuff, and the feature stuff, but there's a deeper understanding about that camera. Yeah. How many chips does it have?
Absolutely.
Or a lot of people go chip size.
And what type of sensor?
And what type of sensor? And you know, it might tell you the size, but you can't always assume that in a broadcast camera that it'll be a 1/2-inch chip, but it's 3 of them. So the best broadcast cameras have 1/2-inch, not the best, but let's just say a 1/2-inch chip is in a broadcast camera. You need to have 3 of them. Yeah. That produces a better image than one chip.
Yeah, the 1/2 inch.
And so you may, and you know, understand what you're buying. You know, inside, remember, in that lens, right behind that lens are a lot of other pieces of mechanics that go on.
Yeah.
And you know, there's all these things, from the sensor to how many sensors to the computer processor that's running all of it. How many processors?
At what point of the signal is your
where
your
you're
ND
losing?
filter
Yeah.
and your ISO? Why would you ISO instead of iris? I mean, those kind of things. Understanding
Right.
those, that would help you get the best image.
Yep.
And we did it recently. We did an interview with the basketball team, and I remember we were talking about it was a very small room, and we were talking about how to get this image to work. And I had to really dig down into how to make the camera setup work so that I could get a good depth of field, for those who know what that is, in a tight room, which is hard to do.
Yeah, you
because
don't have much
everything's
space.
Yeah, like right next to each other. So I'm trying to get this narrow depth of field, and it came down to how I lit it, actually. But yeah, being able to do that, and it came out great. I mean, I really like the look of the final product. But if I had just thrown a camera and said, hit record, let's see what happens, I'll just fix it in post, well, you're not going to get the same effect.
So, so leading to that, how to make a decision in purchasing, there is this prevailing idea, and I agree with this, but there's a caveat that I think needs to be used, and that's this saying that says, well, you get what you pay for, right? And a lot of guys will translate that in, well, the more it costs, the better it is. And that is just not the truth. And it's not the truth because of this concept. You may be paying more for features that you do not need. You do not, like, if you don't know what you're looking for and you're just kind of going off, well, these are similar and they're half-inch chip cameras, and those main features seem to be the same, but one's a little higher priced. It's not good to naturally assume that higher price camera is just better. It might be higher price. They might actually put lower grade chips in it, but put more features on it, and you don't know that they're not advertising, but those are features you just don't need. Like, you know, I don't know. I don't want to get into a ton of list of stuff right now unless somebody wants to know. But
well, I think sometimes it's a room that only needs 4 channels, and they say get an X32. It's like, you don't need all of that power for.
Yeah, and even though that might be the inexpensive option, you know, or you might only need a 6-channel mixer that Soundcraft makes for $250. I mean, we have a few of those rooms where we just don't. It would be overkill to put, you know, a 32-channel mixer in. You just wouldn't use it.
And they did that. I was in there and I said, "Why is there an X32 in here? This room can't even hold 50 people. Like, it can't." I mean, maybe there's a use for that, but at that size, I was like, it just seemed like it was overkill. It felt like someone said, "Buy this and throw it in there," and it does work. I mean,
and they could afford it.
They can afford it. It does work,
and they just did it. Well, you could have maybe spent the other half of the money that you didn't spend on the mixer in other areas.
Ryan says clearly they need a Pro X. Yes, that's it.
Nice.
You will get a like. Anyway, I don't know. If
So understand your gear. Think about, there's an in and out point. That's important. So ingest to distributions to your output. But remember, there's a lot of things in between that in and out point that you just don't see clearly, and you've got to ask those questions. What is it in between the in and out that makes this the best purchase for me? I think that's what I could have said. What I said for the last
I understand.
15, 20 minutes. I probably could have just said it in that sentence.
Well, you were just summarizing that point, right? Or you're building up to that. Right?
I'm building a case.
Okay, so you've focused on your needs, so you know what you need. You're doing research to understand it. Now, what happens if you end up in this scenario? So, I know we were talking. I can't remember who it was last summer. They were on the show, but we were talking about. He said one of the greatest concerts he ever heard was on an X32, but they had great speakers, and we were talking about the balance between your mixer and your speakers. And that if you have good speakers, or if you have bad speakers, right, you cheap out on your speakers or your line arrays, whatever, and you get a great mixer, you're just not going to get as good of a sound, and kind of the whole thing. So let's say you're buying a couple things, where I'm getting at here. What do you do when you kind of have like two decisions? We'll use this example: good speakers, cheap mixer, or good mixer, cheap speakers. How do you start making decisions there? So you know what you need. You've done research. But then you kind of go, these three options look good.
Okay.
Well, how do you narrow it down at that point?
Well, I think you're asking what features are there that I don't need, if it comes down to that.
Oh, that's a good
and if they're all equal in feature list, they're all offering the same features. I think a lot of times you need to at least ask for a demo. And one important thing about developing relationships with trusted resources like an integrator of some type or a dealer that's close to you, that number one, they understand your scenario, they've involved themselves, they've engaged themselves with you, they kind of know what you need as well. They're able to help you think through that. So hopefully you could do that. But more importantly is that I would hope they could arrange for a demo and test, especially if you're spending thousands of dollars, $1,000 even. That's a lot of money, and you shouldn't think just because we work in $1 million industry that just because you're only spending $1,000 that doesn't merit someone allowing you to demo. Let me tell you something, this is a competitive world. Manufacturers want you to use their products. And if you find a manufacturer that will not help you in some way, find a person, a dealer, some way for you to test their gear, I would say that's an instant red flag that puts them out of the mix.
How small of a piece of gear before you can start asking for a demo? Like, I mean,
man,
1,000, 2,000, or is it, I don't know.
No, like for instance, a Beta 58. I mean, we're fortunate because I know, we benefit from I have a lot of years of building relationships, but I'm sure you could go talk to this guy, Jeff Ballou, who is not an actual retailer. He's not going to sell you this product, but I call up Jeff and I say, Jeff, I need to wrap my brain around, and for simplistic form, what a Beta 58 microphone sounds like in my scenario, in my situation. So can I get one? And he'll go, man, when do you need it? And I go, I need it tomorrow. And we'll work it out. Sometimes you might have to play with your scheduling or whatever and be flexible in that. But most everybody, he's a Shure rep, what you would call a Shure rep. And they want me to use their Shure microphones. So even if it's a $130 piece of gear, he's going to do whatever he can to make sure I get a good, valuable test through this, because he knows that if I like this and this, because in our world we might buy 10 of them. Yeah. But even if it was he would only care.
You then decide to do wireless. You like the Shures. You start buying Shure wireless.
You start getting into their product, and that's what they want to build brand loyalty. Right. Those are the good companies. Those are the companies that you want to invest in and build partnerships with, and don't just look at it as a single-off purchase. Yeah. Look at when you purchase something, you're partnering with them, and let them know that you know that as well. Yeah. That has worked for me in the past.
So when you get to that point, you've researched and you're kind of questioning your needs. You're saying, you start looking at what maybe you don't need from what you have, and then contact your reps and see if you can get demos. Yep. Again, kind of going back to the car concept, test drive the car before you buy it. I mean, you want to, before you spend $1,000. And apparently even microphones you can get demos on.
Man, anything really, anything that's out there. I would think that if it's more valuable than the shipping,
at some point there is a cost issue there. I mean,
But a lot of times, I know, man, there's been things that are just hard to get, and they go, talking about Jeff, because Shure's not the only thing they rep. He said, man, I don't have anything, this light in stock, where I can just ship you one so you can try it. But I do know 3 places that are using this guy, and I can call them for you and set up a time for you to go over there and spend as much time with it as you need. And then, yeah, you need those kind of things. So that's what I'm saying. If you drawing a scenario, you've got 3 different packages to choose from, and they're similar. You know, what fits your space the best, and hopefully you're asking those questions in your decision-making process. I mean, you gave a kind of complicated one because you didn't just single out. You said it was a system.
It can be a couple elements.
So speakers to mixer. You know, do you need a snake with it? And you know, how many channels? How does that all? There are a lot of different pieces to the puzzle you got to think about that could determine which system you would buy if they were all equal.
Yeah, so that's great.
But it's a good question. That's a very good question. What do you guys think, man? I know it's a weird kind of forum because we got the microphones and the camera, and you guys are watching. But
you've got the chat.
But you can definitely type in or call in if you want. Just hit that little video thing on our, or friend me, and then IM, like video chat with me through IM. That's how we did it last time, I think.
I was going to look here. All right, let's see.
I mean, we could talk extensively on process of how to, you know, get to a good decision-making process. Really, that's what things in here that you need to know before you actually make that purchase.
All right. Well.
What else?
I got a couple things. I mean, we can talk about some gear. I found an article about Apple that made me laugh.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
So
I'm all for bashing Apple. No.
So Inc. put an article, Apple has a shocking problem with employees walking into the glass walls of its new spaceship headquarters. So
funny.
When Steve Jobs designed this place, he wanted a lot of glass. He wanted a very earthy feel.
Yeah.
But the problem is there's so much glass, apparently, people are walking into them, and they've had multiple 911 calls of people. Now, the glass hasn't broken, and it's not like there have been serious cuts, but you got people getting big bruises. And this article, I don't know if I can put it here. It has like some of the call, like the 911 calls. They've been made available, and so you can read through. So tell me exactly what happened. We had an individual who ran into a glass wall pane and they hit their head, small cut on their head. They were slightly disoriented, and the security's there. I mean, they're handling it. It's not fatal, but it is funny to read through some of these. You know, late 20s here, male. They're conscious, but you know they're making 911 calls. I've just never heard of that before at a place of work where people are walking in enough.
That's funny.
And I don't know if this happens everywhere and Apple gets the press because they're Apple, but I don't feel like I've heard that too often of people walking into glass, like multiple 911, not just one, multiple. And they've had some other things too, so like people can't find door handles on some things, and so they're like, where do I push? Do I pull? You know, how does this work?
That sounds about like an Apple employee to me.
It's so simplistic that they're walking into the wall. So I couldn't help but laugh a little bit just picturing that. But I don't know if any of you guys had heard that. But
that's funny.
Just doink. Oh, must be the new guy. I'll put it here.
In other news, let's see. The Cloud Act was well, I guess I can't say secretly, but kind of shoved in at the last moment in this new bill that President Trump just signed off on.
Omnibus bill?
Yeah,
what was it?
Here's a funny fact if you haven't followed it, but so at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, they finalized the omnibus bill.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2,000 pages long.
Right.
At 10 a.m. on Thursday morning, they all have to vote on it. So, man, that just, I don't like that, man. That bugs the stew out of me. And talking about bad
Speaking of
decision-making
technology,
process.
Rand Paul, I saw him on Facebook, like
Yeah.
posting on here, like here's this page, and he only got to like maybe page 500 of it before they voted. But it was interesting use of tech, though. He's there, and he's got an intern. but he's there
Rand Paul
reading
is
it,
so
and
interesting, man.
Yeah.
The way
pretty
he
good social media skills.
Yeah,
for a bill.
and he thinks through a lot of things,
Yeah.
and I think he takes maybe a bad rap because he actually really puts a thinking process in, not worried about how many votes he's going to get the next time. He's trying to do the best with his time.
Yeah.
But
But anyway, so
they snuck in the Cloud Act.
The Cloud Act.
Yeah, so now with this ratification of the bill, the Microsoft is an American-based company.
Correct.
They also have many data servers all over the world.
Right.
And if there is criminal activity or something that an American court system needs to have for evidence, they no longer can say you cannot have that information from our servers because it's in another country.
Gotcha.
So
If
now
it's an American citizen, I would take
no,
it.
it can be anybody. It can be anything. The thing is, this unilaterally says, as long as you are an American business, we have access to any information you have globally. So it's really shrinking down the world.
Yeah, that is interesting.
There's a global thought process, like a one world government kind of process to this deal. I know that sounds ominous, but
it is interesting because I mean that's a big precedent in terms of
It
how
is.
information is
Yeah.
owned and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
transmitted legally.
So before there's a case that's going on concerning Microsoft, and they wouldn't share the information because it was over in Europe somewhere. They
Right.
said, well, that server's protected by the European law.
Yeah, by
And now
EU.
America is saying, nope, you work here in America. This is an American situation. You can't just have redundant sites out there that offload
Right,
this
redundancy,
information
Yeah, just take it off
and
the U.S.
and
server
go, we can't share that with you.
Yeah.
So they've now made it a point to say, we have access. We can subpoena anything we want. We can get access to any information that is in your sphere of influence.
It's going to be interesting with like will companies move? Well, I guess it is. I'd be curious if it depends on your headquarters. I mean, what if you have a branch in the U.S. and
So-
you're based?
so
like
there is a-
Baidu,
there-
Chinese company. What if they put a server here?
Yeah.
And
So there is
do we
a
have-
clause in there that gives the president unilateral power to negotiate with countries that have, say, let's say China. They have a company that has planted a server base here in America, and they have information here, and they want to get it from us, but they don't have the same law process.
Sure.
They can contact the president, and the president can negotiate. Yes, you can have that information, and so there's a lot of little dominoes
Some
that
crazy
are.
politics right there.
Yeah, but to think that all got shoved in at
Yeah.
7:59
Right before it hit
Wednesday
the
night,
press.
and they got a vote on it
Yeah.
at 10 a.m. on Thursday.
How do you
I mean,
print-
don't
how do
have
you print that
24
many
hours
pages
to
that fast? That's crazy.
yeah and
mean,
get it
that's-
out. I guess it's being put together everywhere,
pieces,
and
yeah,
then
maybe
they
not all
just
at once,
with
yeah.
Adobe, and you can just put all
Yeah.
that stuff, shove it together in a file, and send it out.
So, but other than that, that is interesting in terms of the data ownership. That is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so it's becoming a small world.
Yeah.
Still wouldn't want to paint it, but the world is getting smaller, technology speaking and informationally speaking, I
and you
guess.
got to think that's going to have big impacts for Facebook and Google.
Oh
given they've
yeah.
got
So
their
here's the
international-
other thing is these bigger companies before tried to distance themselves from saying that they were supporting it,
Mm-hmm.
and they quietly support it. Well, there is a letter that has all their logos on it that were sent out as a form letter showing support and asking congressmen to make sure this gets passed. But on the surface layer, they really didn't want people to know, hey, we want this bill to pass because
Yeah.
they want to come across
It'd be a lot
as
easier for them if they don't have to worry about what server it's.
yeah,
just a
because
peanut
now
shirt,
they
here you
can
go. We
say
don't have to,
yeah,
we
now
can't
they
do
can
anything.
yeah,
We can't,
it's
and
not our fault, it's the
yeah,
government's fault.
it does make their lives easier, but you know,
Yeah,
it
but
comes at a
on the
cost.
outside, they want to tell us that, hey, we're concerned and we're fighting for your privacy
Sure.
and
Well, they,
things like that. I don't know.
especially that other company and story that broke last week with Facebook. But
Yeah.
did I say it out loud?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that whole thing was how does it work internationally with information and data? So you know,
the big problem there is not the data mining itself, because every company,
oh, I know.
every technology
How do
company
you
is
think
doing
Facebook
it. Every
serves up those ads? They're
every
data
marketing
mining,
company. I
yeah.
mean, the only reason Facebook exists is so that like Mark Zuckerberg
Yeah.
wants you to believe that it's all about community,
Yeah.
and it is. It like that's what kind of
It has to be for you. To
makes
keep
the
posting. Let's put it
outside
that way.
go,
Yeah.
but internally, the way they make their money, the business model itself, well, nah, it's not really about community. It's about them extracting all the information they can from that community.
Sell an advertisement. Yeah.
Well, the
selling
data
space.
itself is just valuable. It's like gold, and they're making it's $1 trillion industry, and don't get me started on net
Yeah,
neutrality,
yeah.
but that's a that's a
We'll
whole
save
thing.
that for our next lunchtime.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, we should probably do one
yeah.
and yell at each other on.
Yeah, a little bit.
You want to get me going,
Uh-oh.
man? Just get me going on net neutrality.
Wow.
Let's see. Those were some interesting things that happened
Yeah.
late last week.
I'm trying to think. I was gonna look up if you. Had
I've
seen
got
any,
I've got the iPhone X. Like it. The camera's awesome. It doesn't do 948 frames a second like
Oh,
the Samsung S9,
Yeah,
but
you
it
see
looks
it.
good. It actually does good recording. Good still. The portrait mode is fun. I think it takes dynamic pictures. The other little features, like it's edge to edge now. I
like
kind of
that?
appreciate that.
You
yeah,
like that
I do.
over- I have the.
I don't
iPhone
know that
8
it's a huge
Plus.
feature that says I need to get
Oh,
it
right.
over the other ones. Like it's not that much
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, like
I-
mine. I
the
mean, these
no
have-
button.
You got this black, at the top and bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, no button. But yours is more.
Oh, you can't tell, but well, you
but-
can if I light it
I mean,
up.
it's about the same screen. Your screen's probably actually bigger, and your phone is
The
smaller.
phone's smaller.
So I guess that's a plus.
Yeah, for me, because I
Well,
do
mine's a
not.
plus, no,
Yeah, I do
plus,
not
but-
like the
yeah.
plus size.
Yeah,
So
and that is the one thing I don't. I like the screen, which is I would probably like the iPhone 10 because you've got the bigger screen, but not the bigger phone.
Yeah.
than this, so.
yeah, and the great thing on the 10 that you could only get in the plus models of the 7 and 8
Yeah.
are the dual camera that gives you that portrait, gives you that
Oh,
depth of
yeah.
field effect,
And it
I
doesn't
love
need two
that.
cameras or the two lenses.
Two
to pull
lens,
that off.
yeah. Yeah,
That makes sense.
and
because you can
and they
get
put it on the front side, so
Okay,
on the
now that I
pluses you don't
on
have,
the 8 Plus. So I think this is
and that
second
helps
best phone.
with the 3D modeling of your face. So the
for
security
the
feature
Animoji, that stuff.
that it does, but also the security feature.
Oh, Face ID. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And it's constantly learning. I'm realizing that sometimes it doesn't unlock on purpose, even though it clearly sees me.
Mhm.
It wants to. It wants me to
What's a
type in my
clear-
password.
Like if it's like this, you mean? Like if it's off to the side?
Excuse me.
Or like I don't have one, but I mean if it's off to the side, will it unlock, or does it have to be like kind of straight on?
Well, it's learning as it's evolving. I noticed that I don't have to be in front of it quite as much as I do. But like, and also like sometimes I have
Oh,
my
yeah,
glasses
what
on, so
happens
it
if you
could
have
trick it,
glasses?
or a hat. I noticed early on my hat always tricked it.
Yeah.
But as it learned, as I would type in my passcode, it learned, okay, this is what I look like with a hat on. This is what I look
Gotcha.
like with the glasses on. And then it'll most of the time unlock it, but I know that every now and then it'll say, oh, give me the password. Let me just make sure. And then, it's putting that in the modeling
Yeah, that's
database.
interesting.
Yeah, it
That's
is. It's really interesting.
that it can. So much machine learning now. That's kind of the new
Yep.
thing. I mean, everyone can have a search box and
Yeah.
generic app
But
ad
I-
stuff. But
y-
machine learning is now.
I'm going to tell you something, man.
It's stuff.
With these new phones, even the Samsung phones and the Pixel 2,
Yeah.
that camera, I got to use it the other day.
Oh yeah.
And it is so good.
It looks like a great phone.
Clean
really does.
pictures.
Any Pixel users out there?
Yeah, and the S9 is doing even better video.
Has that come out? Yeah, is that publicly available yet? I haven't. I know I saw.
I've seen a couple guys review the early model, so
okay,
I'm
that's
not
what
sure
I don't think it's actually
where it is
out.
on consumer side,
Let
but
me go buy one. Let's go to Samsung. Buy now. See if it'll let me. I'm on the Samsung site here.
I'm sure they wouldn't put that there. Could it be
it
pre-order?
Yeah.
But still, that means it's within 60 days, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, and S8 was good too. But I was going to relate that back
March
to.
11th, so we got a few weeks now. So it's
I was going to relate that
Yeah.
back to churches using it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
why spend all the money into getting broadcast cameras? Couldn't you just use your iPhone or your Samsung phone or your Pixel 2? Because they look really good now.
And
That's a good. I think that's a very debatable topic.
And getting an
I'd like to hear what other
audio
guys
input.
think if they're
Yeah.
using. I mean, we use a Mevo. It's a 4K sensor that spits out now 1080, 720, 1080, 480.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same idea.
Yeah, it's a single. Yeah, and you can see it streams to everything, but obviously your phone would probably.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
not YouTube, but the others.
Your phone? Yeah.
Yeah, you can go live from the mobile app from YouTube.
I think you can.
I don't think so. But
Okay.
You guys can comment and settle that, but yeah, and this one.
I thought I did once. I'll have to go look.
Anyway, you can see Mevo. It's cool. You can see
Yep.
they've got these interview situations. You know, got some cool stuff.
Yeah, they do.
I like that.
They do a good job, and they're fairly cheap, like a couple $100, $300
Yeah.
bucks maybe, for that unit. And you can put them on mic stands and things like that. So
Yeah.
we use them in very small applications here.
Yeah, they're good. I recommend it
work.
too if you want to get started in like maybe some more advanced Facebook or YouTube live type stuff. You're trying to do demonstrations, especially.
Oh, yeah.
Cooking kind of thing is a great example.
Well, they
but,
use that as their
yeah, any kind of
If
craft.
you're doing a show, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah,
if
show.
you're
and
advanced
you're wanting to
Facebook
show, here's how to
video,
make a.
right?
Here's how to sew a shirt. I don't
Yeah.
know. Something very. You have to demonstrate how to do it.
But
And-
I've noticed that there are
Yeah.
house of worships out there that are using them as well.
Yeah.
And it's
As
really
and
a
it has
good
You
idea.
can follow the speaker, which is nice.
Yeah.
That it'll follow the
And
person. You don't have to.
If you
manually
have a
keep moving
live
it.
stream account and you have multiple Mevos, you can get the free software,
yeah.
the live stream software that brings them in. See, it's wireless as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the phone idea. It's a wireless camera that you can go directly to, but they don't have a switching app yet for the phone's cameras. So you're just
Right.
using that one camera.
Yeah, I'm asking here. Ryan said, he said, I definitely wouldn't want to try and do a broadcast on a phone.
Yeah,
It depends. It does depend on.
that's because
your
you're in a
size.
mega
Yeah.
church, Ryan.
Mega church.
You got a long ways from the back to the
Yeah.
front.
But
there are a lot of smaller churches
Yeah.
that I don't want to throw. I don't want to throw the idea out yet. I want to see if there's some failure points. So
Yeah.
I say the video looks good enough that a viewer can tell what's going on. They clearly can see, and you can get audio into your phones now from the console or whatever.
Yeah.
So it could be a good fit, a good economical fit for smaller startup church plants that are just trying to get the word out.
Yeah, sub 100 attendance. I mean,
No, I don't even want to put a number on it necessarily as far if it's just a smaller group base, like the distance between talent and where the lens is. And, you know, you're not going to get the tracking and the zoom and, well, on the Mevo
yeah.
you kind of do, but it's good with tracking in that 4K sensor.
Yeah.
But you know, there's some good economical options. I just think it's kind of fascinating. We've gotten to the point in our little carry around devices that It's consideration now. You know, I can point this at you, and
Right.
it still looks pretty good.
Yeah, especially with the fake depth of
Stills
field on the
are
photos,
better, but
yeah.
but the video's coming around.
And I think it is going to keep getting better because this is, I mean, how many people, most people probably don't have professional cameras or lenses or like camcorders. Like, I remember when I was a kid, parents, they'd have a little camcorder, you know, and they'd bring it to the soccer field. And now I just see phones or even iPads. I've seen, like, you know, at concerts or at, you know, large gatherings. You got someone sticking an iPad in the air. I think the development, even the cost. I mean, Apple claims the iPhone's the most popular camera in the world as a single camera, probably just because they only have one model iPhone. Android probably takes a lot more pictures, but there's not a single flagship. But clearly, there's a lot of money put in this camera versus a lot of others. I mean, and we were talking the last week about the microphone in the iPhones now, and the development.
Good.
They've put a lot of
Yeah.
development. I mean, they didn't accidentally
Yeah.
end up at a
Yeah, I like
pretty
it.
decent mic.
And if I ever say anything good about an Apple product, you know that it's probably a genuine sentiment because I hate the company.
Yeah.
But
They have a really good, they got a good mic. Matt Good just hopped on. What's up, Matt?
Matty G.
Um,
What's up, Matty G?
yeah. Yeah, Ryan, yeah, it wouldn't serve a phone probably wouldn't serve your needs very well. So, but you're right, yeah, color correction, iris control, a lot of the controls that you get with the bigger broadcast cameras and setups are very nice. I mean, you do sacrifice control. I guess that's the big thing when you're on your phone. I mean, you get
It's
whatever,
just a point and
whatever you
shoot,
get.
you know.
Yeah, it's kind of what you see is what you get.
Yeah,
And,
for sure.
but it can be good.
Well, we did that. Like our theme today was we discussed the decision-making process on purchasing your equipment. We covered that. I thought we did good. We talked a little bit of just buzzworthy news, and anytime you guys want to talk gear, man, we're always up for it.
Yeah.
We're nuts when it comes to gear talk and philosophy on how you use the gear, things like that. So run a conversation. IM us. Put it on if you post to Worship Music Technology, or we peruse the other forums as well. So I'd love to put it in there. I will chime in, and just love to explore, learn, and
I just put the link to Worship Music Technology, the Facebook group, in the chat. So go ahead and click on that.
And I think we do the YouTube is going to.
Yeah,
Is that
Lab
440?
Yep.
Okay.
And actually,
So that's our
we
digital media
crossed over
labs.
500 members on Worship Music Technology
Sweet.
in a couple of weeks, really. It hasn't been too long, so that's cool. We
Yeah.
have more people, got more invites recently, so
That's
adding
awesome,
more
man.
people. So yeah, if you've got questions, advice, or especially if you want us to bring it up on our next chat, just put it in the group.
Yeah,
and say,
give
"Hey,
us-
bring this
give us
up next
talking
time."
points. Yeah.
We'll be glad to bring that up.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you maybe on Wednesday, if not for sure on Friday. But until then, I'll see you around.